Right now, as you are watching this video, you are probably sitting down, or maybe lying down. Your body is resting, your heart is beating, on average, 60 to 80 times a minute. Your muscles are relaxed. Now I want you to remember the most exhausting day of your life. Maybe you ran a marathon, or maybe you went to a wedding where you danced non-stop all night. Remember that exhaustion, that burning sensation in your legs, the way you ran out of breath. Now take that feeling and multiply it by 100. Multiply it by 1,000. Imagine that you want to stop. Your legs no longer support you. Your lungs are begging for air, but your brain refuses to give your body the command to stop. Your willpower is offline. Your body continues to move like a puppet. That is the exact moment when dancing stops being entertainment and transforms into the most brutal method of torture in history. The story I am about to tell you today is not a horror movie script. It is not a medieval legend or a folktale. This is the strangest, most inexplicable, and deadliest case of mass hysteria recorded in medical history. It is an event so bizarre that even modern science, centuries later, is still trying to figure out exactly what happened. We are going to the streets of Strasbourg, to that week of hell where 400 people danced until their feet bled, their ribs broke, and their hearts stopped. Can dancing kill you? The answer is much scarier than you think. Yes, it can, if your brain forces you to. Date: July 1518. Place: the city of Strasbourg, part of the Holy Roman Empire. The summer heat is scorching the city. But it's not just the heat that's plaguing the people. Hunger, disease, and fear are rampant. The city has just gone through one of the worst harvest seasons in recent years. Famine is at the door. People are desperate. In such an atmosphere, a woman named Frau Trophäa opens the door of her house and steps onto the narrow cobblestone street. There is no music, there is no celebration, but Frau Trophäa suddenly begins to dance. This is not a graceful waltz or a cheerful folk dance. This is a jerky, uncontrolled, strange twitching that almost resembles a seizure. Her arms are flailing in the air, her feet are stomping hard on the ground. There is no smile on her face. On the contrary, she has an expressionless, dull, even pained look. Her neighbors first think she is drunk or having a nervous breakdown after fighting with her husband. They laugh, they watch, but hours pass. Frau Trophäa does not stop. The sun sets, it gets dark, and she is still dancing. Her dress, soaked in sweat, clings to her body. She's gasping for breath, but she cannot stop. Her husband tries to stop her, grabs her arms, but the woman continues to move as if pushed by an invisible force. Night falls, Frau Trophäa faints from exhaustion and collapses to the ground. Everyone thinks it's over, but with the first light of morning, the woman wakes up, stands on her swollen feet again, and continues that cursed dance right where she left off. The real horror begins on the third day. This disease starts to spread like a virus. First one neighbor, then another. Those going shopping in the marketplace, those returning from work, are caught in Frau Trophäa's hypnotic rhythm. Within a week, the number of people uncontrollably dancing in the street reaches 34. This is no longer an individual madness, this is an epidemic. The situation becomes so grave that the Strasbourg City Council meets urgently. The doctors, priests, and administrators of that era come together to discuss this scourge. The doctor's diagnosis, according to the medical understanding of the time, is quite interesting. Hot blood. According to them, these people's blood had overheated and was poisoning their brains. The solution? The solution was the disease itself. The doctor said, let them dance. They will dance and sweat the hot blood out of their bodies and be cured. This would be one of the greatest medical mistakes in history. The city administration followed this advice and made an unthinkable decision. To allow the patients to dance more comfortably, they cleared the city's busiest square, the grain market. They built a wooden platform, a massive stage. They even hired professional musicians, brought in pipers and drummers to make the atmosphere curative. Their goal was to cure them, but what they did was no different than pouring gasoline on a fire. The rhythm of the music fueled those chaotic twitchings even more. Those on stage encouraged others. The number of dancers skyrocketed from 34 to 100, and from 100 to 400. Now picture that scene, the July heat, 400 people stomping on a wooden platform. Musicians playing non-stop, but there is no joy on stage. There are screams. People's feet are shredded from constant movement. Shoes have melted away. Skin is flayed. The wooden floor is covered in blood, but they cannot stop. Many are crying in pain, begging, "Help me, stop me!" But their legs do not obey that command. Their bodies begin to fail. Dehydration thickens the blood. The heart can no longer withstand this intense tempo, and people, one by one, begin to collapse and die while dancing. Heart attacks, strokes, heat exhaustion. The streets of Strasbourg begin to fill with the corpses of those who danced themselves to death.
So how is this possible? The human body has a defense mechanism against pain. When you are tired, you stop. When you are hurt, you quit. Your brain protects you. But in 1518, in those 400 people, this fuse had blown. Why? Over the centuries, countless theories have been proposed to explain this event. The first and most common theory was ergot poisoning. In that era, rye bread was the staple food of the poor. In damp summers, a fungus called ergot grows on rye. This fungus contains ergotamine, the raw material for modern LSD. So it is a powerful hallucinogenic and a poison that causes convulsions. Theorists thought the populace ate poisoned bread, which caused them to hallucinate and have convulsions. Sounds logical, doesn't it? But modern science has debunked this theory. Because ergot poisoning, yes, causes hallucinations and convulsions, but it also cuts off blood flow to the extremities. People become unable to walk. Their fingers and toes become gangrenous. Let alone dancing for days, they cannot even stand up. So the culprit was not moldy bread. Then we are left with a much darker explanation, one that is entirely about the human mind. Mass psychogenic illness, or better known as mass hysteria. When the human mind is under extreme stress, fear, and despair, it can lose its perception of reality. In 1518, Strasbourg people were besieged by famine, plagues, and religious fears. At that time, there was a belief in a saint named Saint Vitus. According to the belief, those who angered Saint Vitus would be punished by him with the dancing curse. When Frau Trophea went out into the street and started making those strange movements, the people watching her had only one thought in their minds: Saint Vitus has cursed her. This belief was so strong that it triggered what we call the nocebo effect, the evil twin of the placebo. If you believe with all your heart that you will get sick, that you are cursed, your brain physically creates the symptoms of that illness. The onlookers were so affected by fear that they believed the same curse had infected them, and their brains took control of their bodies. Mirror neurons kicked in. Humans are social beings and are programmed to imitate. The movement of the crowd, the rhythm of the music, and the fear in the environment created a trance state. These people were not dancing consciously. They were inside a kind of hypnosis, a waking nightmare. They did not feel pain, because the brain in a trance state was blocking pain signals until the body completely collapsed. The city council finally realized its mistake. They tore down the wooden stage, fired the musicians. They forcibly stopped the remaining dancers, loaded them onto wagons, and took them to a shrine in the mountains, to the altar of Saint Vitus. They put red shoes on them and prayed over them. And strangely, they stopped. They were cured. Why? Because their brains believed that this was the cure. Belief had made them sick, and only belief could cure them. What does this event tell us about the human mind? It shows how fragile our free will is. We think we make our own decisions, that we are in control of our bodies. But when our brain is manipulated by fear and belief, it can turn into a machine that can drive us to our deaths. The dancing plague of 1518 is not an anecdote left in the dusty pages of history, but a warning sign showing the limits of human psychology. So, could something like this happen today? You might say, we don't live in the Middle Ages anymore. We don't have superstitions. But you are wrong. It has changed form, but the mechanism is the same. Today's St. Vitus is social media algorithms and modern stress. Remember the TikTok tics that suddenly appeared in young girls around the world recently, which had no neurological cause? Doctors explained that this was a mass psychogenic illness, where videos of influencers with Tourette syndrome watched on TikTok were imitated via mirror neurons in stressed young brains. Just like in 1518, one person started, others watched, and their brains copied those symptoms. Or consider the Havana syndrome, the mysterious sounds diplomats heard and the physical pain they experienced. There is still no conclusion, but many experts say this too could be modern mass hysteria, a stress-induced psychological contagion. In conclusion, the human brain is as vulnerable as it is the most complex structure in the universe. A biological software error, a wrong belief, a collective fear can instantly transform us from rational human beings into creatures who dance until they die, who cannot stop, who have lost control. Those 400 people who died in Strasbourg in 1518 were not just victims, they were the ultimate proof of what the mind can make the body do. Next time you find yourself caught up in the enthusiasm of a crowd, a social media trend, or collective fear, remember Frau Tropfa and ask yourself this question: is it me making this movement, or is my brain adjusting me to someone else's rhythm? Dancing is beautiful, but if you can't control when the music stops, that dance could be your end. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to wander more in these dark, unexplored, and dangerous corners of the human mind, and to unearth the truths hidden by history and science. In the next video, we will talk about another secret of the brain, perhaps that other person living inside your own head. Until then, pay attention to who is in control.